There are places in this world that resist explanation, ancient structures so massive that they couldn't have been moved with primitive tools. There are mysterious artifacts that challenge everything we believe we know about history, and entire civilizations that disappeared without leaving a trace. These aren't just myths or legends. These are real, documented mysteries that archaeologists and historians still struggle to comprehend. How were they built? Who created them? And perhaps the most unsettling question of all, what else is still out there, waiting to be discovered? From colossal stone blocks that no modern crane could lift, to civilizations submerged beneath the ocean, today we're diving deep into some of the strangest unsolved mysteries of the ancient world. So, sit back, relax, grab a snack, and let's dive into these mysteries where history itself seems to unravel. Maine Penny, the Viking artifact that shouldn't exist, hidden beneath the sea. Sometimes artifacts turn up in the most unexpected places, buried beneath the soil, waiting to rewrite everything we thought we knew. This brings us to a small but incredibly controversial artifact. The Maine Penny, an object that, if genuine, could challenge the story of who truly discovered North America first. It was 1957 when Guy Melgren, an amateur archaeologist, stumbled upon something strange at an ancient Native American site in Nask Point, Maine. Among the stone tools, arrowheads, and pottery fragments, there was a small, worn coin. At first glance, it looked like any other old piece of metal, nothing particularly special. But when experts took a closer look, they were shocked. The coin wasn't European, nor was it from any early colonial settlement. Instead, it was identified as a Norse penny dating back to the reign of Olafkir, a Viking king who ruled Norway from 1067 to 1093 AD. In other words, a Viking artifact found in Maine. At first, the discovery seemed impossible. The official history of the Americas tells us that Norse explorers like Leif Erikson may have briefly visited parts of Canada around 10 AD, establishing a short-lived settlement at Lansox Meadows in Newfoundland. But there's no record of Vikings ever reaching as far south as Maine, let alone leaving behind coins. So, how did a medieval Norse artifact end up buried in an ancient Native American site in New England? One theory suggests that the Vikings traveled much farther than we ever thought, possibly even setting foot in present-day Maine. If true, it would push the known boundaries of Viking exploration well beyond Newfoundland, raising new questions about early European contact with North America. Did Norse traders establish secret outposts along the coast? Did they interact with indigenous tribes far to the south? Another theory suggests a less dramatic possibility, that the coin was acquired through trade. The Native American site where the Maine penny was found belonged to the Penobscot people, skilled traders who exchanged goods across vast distances. Could the penny have made its way down from Canada, passed from hand to hand over generations? If so, the Vikings may have never set foot in Maine at all. The coin simply traveled along ancient trade routes. But not everyone believes the Maine penny is real. Skeptics argue that the discovery was either a mistake or an outright hoax. Some point out that no other Norse artifacts were found at the site. No weapons, no tools, no pottery, just the coin. If Vikings had been there, wouldn't there be more evidence? Others question whether the coin was planted by someone looking to create a mystery. However, tests on the Maine penny have confirmed that it is an authentic 11th century Norse coin, not a modern fake. The only question is how it got there. And the Maine penny isn't the only mysterious coin to have surfaced where it shouldn't. Other strange discoveries have left historians puzzled, hinting at possible pre-Columbian contact with the Americas. One such case is the Roman coins found in Texas and Venezuela in the 1950s. A collector claimed to have discovered a cache of ancient Roman coins in a small Texas town, while another set of coins allegedly turned up near a river in Venezuela. These coins, dating back over 1,000 years before Columbus, have fueled speculation about whether Roman sailors or shipwreck survivors could have reached the Americas centuries before anyone thought possible. Then there's the case of the Oak Island coins. The infamous Oak Island, a supposed treasure hunting site off the coast of Nova Scotia, has yielded strange artifacts over the years, including coins of uncertain origin. Some of them appear to be from Europe, but their exact age and how they arrived on the island remain a mystery. Were they left by early explorers, pirates, or are they simply later deposits that have been misinterpreted? Perhaps the most baffling case is the Japanese coins found in Kenya. In the ruins of a centuries-old Swahili settlement on Kenya's coast, archaeologists discovered medieval Japanese coins. The presence of these coins, dating to Japan's Edo period, suggests that early trade networks may have connected Africa and Asia in ways we never imagined. While this doesn't directly relate to the Vikings or North America, it does show that ancient currencies often turn up in places where they seemingly have no logical reason to exist. The question of who reached the Americas first is one of the greatest ongoing debates in archaeology. The discovery of the Maine Penny, along with other unusual finds, forces us to reconsider the accepted timeline of exploration. If the Vikings were here, were they the first? Or could other civilizations, Phoenicians, Romans, even Chinese explorers, have arrived long before Columbus? Some researchers even argue that small forgotten voyages could have occurred, with little to no record left behind. The Maine Penny remains a tantalizing clue in this historical puzzle. It might not be definitive proof of Viking settlement in Maine, but it does raise some uncomfortable questions. And if a single coin can change history, what other forgotten artifacts are still waiting to be found? The past is full of puzzles, artifacts, and structures that defy explanation, challenging what we thought we knew about ancient civilizations. The Maine Penny is just one of many clues suggesting that history is far more complex than we once believed. But not every mystery involves lost. Kailasa Temple, the megastructure carved from a mountain. Few places on Earth embody what was once possible like the Kailasa Temple in India. This architectural marvel is so precise and so seemingly impossible that it raises more questions than answers. Located in the Ellora caves of Maharashtra, India, the Kailasa Temple is unlike anything else on the planet. At first glance, it appears to be just another grand temple, one of many scattered across India. However, upon closer inspection, you realize there is something extraordinary about it. This temple wasn't built in the traditional sense. It wasn't assembled stone by stone, like the pyramids or other monumental structures of the ancient world. Instead, it was carved directly out of a single massive rock face. This feat alone is astonishing. To create the Kailasa Temple, builders had to remove an estimated 200,000 tons of solid basalt rock, carving downward from the top of the mountain rather than constructing from the ground up. This method of excavation, known as vertical excavation, is almost unheard of in ancient architecture. Unlike other temples that required scaffolding, bricklaying, and centuries of labor, the Kailasa Temple was essentially revealed by cutting away the mountain around it. But how was this achieved, and why does no other temple quite match its complexity? Dating the construction of Kailasa is difficult, but most scholars believe it was built during the reign of King Krishna I of the Rashtrakuta dynasty in the 8th century CE. The temple is dedicated to Lord Shiva, one of the principal deities in Hinduism, and is meant to represent Mount Kailasa, the mythical abode of Shiva. Despite this attribution, there are no surviving records detailing how it was built or who designed it. Theories about its construction range from the practical to the mysterious. Some scholars argue that skilled artisans using rudimentary tools like chisels and hammers slowly chipped away at the rock over decades, carefully shaping intricate pillars, staircases, and ornate sculptures. But skeptics point out that if the temple was truly built in just 18 to 20 years, as some believe, then thousands of tons of rock would have needed to be removed every single day, a task that seems nearly impossible given the tools available at the time. This has led some to propose alternative theories. Some suggest that more advanced technology was used, perhaps lost knowledge or techniques that we simply do not understand today. Others have speculated that the temple may be far older than we think, built over multiple generations, and only later attributed to the Rashtrakuta dynasty. One of the most controversial theories, often dismissed by mainstream historians, is that the temple is evidence of an ancient civilization with knowledge of precision engineering techniques that have since been lost. The Kailasa Temple's symmetry, its impossibly smooth walls, and the precision of its carvings have led some to compare it to other unexplained architectural wonders such as Machu Picchu or the pyramids of Egypt. Could there have been an advanced civilization in ancient India capable of achieving feats of engineering far beyond what we assume was possible? Then, there's the question of why the temple was built this way in the first place. Most temples in India were constructed using conventional methods. Why take on the nearly impossible challenge of carving an entire temple from a single rock? Some researchers believe the answer lies in religious symbolism. In Hindu tradition, Mount Kailasa is believed to be an unmovable, eternal structure, much like the temple itself. By carving the temple directly from the mountain, the builders may have sought to create something that would last forever, an earthly representation of the divine. Interestingly, Kailasa is not the only example of rock-cut architecture in the Ellora caves. The site is home to over 100 caves, temples, and monasteries, many of which date back thousands of years and belong to multiple religious traditions, including Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. However, none of them come close to the scale and complexity of Kailasa. Despite its undeniable grandeur, the temple remains something of an enigma. How was it completed so quickly? Why do we have so few records of its construction? And why does it stand alone, with no other known structures matching its technique or ambition? For now, the Kailasa Temple remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of ancient India, a structure so elaborate, so seemingly impossible, that it continues to inspire wonder and debate among historians, engineers, and visitors alike. But not all ancient marvels have withstood the test of time. Uffington White Horse, the ancient symbol no one understands. Ancient relics challenge our understanding of the past, and some mysteries don't lie beneath the sea or hidden in forgotten jungles. Instead, they are carved into the very earth itself. High in the rolling hills of southern England, a figure has stood watch over the land for thousands of years. A massive, stylized horse carved into the chalk hills of Oxford. Its elegant, elongated shape stretches nearly 360 feet across the landscape. It is one of the most enduring and baffling mysteries in Britain. This is the Uffington White Horse, a symbol so ancient that no one knows who created it or why. The White Horse of Uffington isn't like other hill figures. England has many chalk carvings, but most of them are relatively recent, created within the last few hundred years. The Uffington horse, however, is different. Studies have shown that it is at least 3,000 years old, dating back to the late Bronze Age or early Iron Age. This means it was already ancient when the Romans arrived in Britain, and even they didn't know its origins. Over the centuries, many have speculated about its meaning. Was it a religious symbol, a tribal emblem, or a marker of some long-lost kingdom? The carving itself is fascinating in its design. Unlike a realistic depiction of a horse, the Uffington figure is abstract and almost modern in style. Its sweeping curves and elongated limbs give it an otherworldly appearance, unlike anything else from its time. Some have suggested that it represents not a horse at all, but something else entirely. But why would ancient people go through the trouble of carving such a massive figure into the landscape? The sheer effort required to create and maintain the white horse suggests it was deeply important to those who made it. The carving is etched into the chalk of the hillside, meaning it would have needed constant upkeep to prevent it from being reclaimed by the earth. Generation after generation had to deliberately clear the figure, ensuring that it remained visible. This indicates that it held significance for centuries, perhaps even millennia. One theory is that the white horse was a territorial marker, a way for ancient tribes to claim ownership of the land. If true, it would have been visible for miles, a clear sign to any travelers or enemies passing through. Another possibility is that it had religious or ceremonial meaning, perhaps linked to an ancient fertility cult or a horse-worshipping culture. The Celts, who came long after its creation, revered horses as sacred animals, often associating them with gods and warriors. Some historians believe the Uffington horse may have been an early representation of the Celtic goddess Epona, a deity linked to horses and protection. But the mystery of the white horse goes deeper than just its meaning. Some researchers have suggested that it might have astronomical significance. Certain alignments with the sun and stars indicate that it could have been part of a larger ritual landscape, possibly used in seasonal ceremonies. The nearby Dragon Hill, a flat-topped hill that sits just below the carving, adds to the intrigue. Legends say this is where St. George slew the dragon, and some believe the site has been sacred since prehistoric times. Others have proposed even stranger theories. Could the Uffington white horse be a remnant of a lost language, an ancient pictogram left by a forgotten civilization? Some have even speculated that it represents a celestial event, a comet streaking across the sky that was immortalized in chalk. The unusual, almost alien-like style of the carving has fueled speculation that it wasn't just inspired by earthly creatures, but something seen in the heavens. Then, there's the theory that the white horse is far older than we think. Some alternative historians have suggested that the carving could predate even the Bronze Age, potentially stretching back to the Neolithic period. If that were true, it would place the Uffington horse among the oldest artistic representations in the world, linking it to civilizations long lost to time. What's undeniable is that the white horse has survived not just in the chalk hills of Oxfordshire, but in the collective imagination of those who have lived alongside it. It has inspired legends, from tales of dragon slayers to myths of ghostly horses galloping across the landscape. Even today, the figure is carefully maintained, with volunteers and locals continuing the ancient tradition of scouring the horse to keep its shape from fading. Despite its age, the Uffington white horse remains as striking as ever. Whether it was a religious icon, a tribal symbol, or something else entirely, its creators left behind no written records, only a massive, haunting image carved into the land itself. And while its true origins may never be fully known, the white horse continues to stare out over the hills, just as it has for thousands of years. The ancient world is full of lost cities and forgotten structures, many of which remain shrouded in mystery. Some have been buried beneath shifting sands, others swallowed by dense jungles, and some, like the Uffington white horse, have stood defiantly against time, etched into the very landscape. But what happens when a civilization leaves behind nothing but an enigmatic symbol? 10,000-year-old sunken city off Cuba, a lost civilization underwater. The past is full of lost civilizations, forgotten cities, and ruins that defy explanation. Some were swallowed by jungles, others buried beneath shifting sands, but every so often, something appears beneath the ocean, suggesting that entire chapters of human history may be missing. The story of Nan Madol, a massive city built on the waters of the Pacific, raises questions about how ancient civilizations constructed such monumental structures in remote locations. But it is not the only place where the sea has hidden its secrets. In the waters off the coast of Cuba, deep beneath the surface, lies something that may be even more astonishing. A vast sunken city that some believe could be over 10,000 years old. The discovery of what has been called the Cuban underwater city is one of the most controversial finds in recent decades. In 2001, a team of researchers working with a Canadian company, Advanced Digital Communications, was conducting sonar scans of the seabed off the coast of the Guanahacoibes Peninsula in western Cuba. Led by ocean engineer Paulina Zalitsky, the team was searching for evidence of Spanish shipwrecks when they found something unexpected. The sonar readings revealed a series of symmetrical structures arranged in geometric patterns, something that did not look natural. The formations appeared to be massive stone structures resembling the layout of an ancient city, complete with pyramids, roads, and even what looked like buildings arranged in a grid-like fashion. Even more incredibly, the structures were located nearly 2,000 feet below the surface. At that depth, they could not have been built during recorded human history, at least not according to what we currently understand. Zalitsky and her team were stunned. If these structures were indeed man-made, they would have to date back to a time when sea levels were drastically lower, possibly before the last ice age, over 10,000 years ago. That would mean the site predates the pyramids of Egypt, Stonehenge, and even Göbekli Tepe, one of the oldest known temple complexes on Earth. If true, it would force a complete reevaluation of ancient history. But how could a city of such scale exist beneath the sea? Theories quickly emerged. Some researchers suggested it could be the remains of an ancient civilization that lived in the Caribbean before rising waters submerged their settlements. Others speculated that it could be connected to the lost civilization of Atlantis, though most archaeologists dismissed that idea as pseudoscience. The structures could also be the remnants of a land bridge that once connected Cuba to Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, which would suggest an entirely different history of migration and settlement in the Americas. With such a potentially groundbreaking discovery, many expected follow-up research and exploration, but strangely, after the initial announcement, little progress was made in confirming what the sonar scans had revealed. A few years later, a remote-operated vehicle, ROV, was sent down to capture images of the site. The footage showed what looked like large cut stone blocks stacked on top of each other, eerily resembling ruins. Yet, without physical samples or further analysis, no definitive conclusion could be drawn. One reason for the lack of follow-up studies is the difficulty of exploring the site. At a depth of nearly 2,000 feet, diving is impossible without highly specialized submersibles, which require significant funding and logistical coordination. Unlike shallower sites where divers can excavate ruins firsthand, anything at this depth must be studied remotely, making it harder to analyze the structures and determine their origin. Skeptics argue that the formations could be natural geological structures rather than man-made ruins. Some geologists have suggested that the city might be the result of seismic activity, where natural rock formations were fractured in a way that made them appear artificial. Others believe that the sonar images were simply misinterpreted, creating the illusion of buildings where none exist. However, the geometric patterns and apparent alignment of the structures make this explanation less convincing to those who have seen the original scans. Adding to the mystery is the lack of access to more detailed research. After the initial discovery, information about the site became scarce, leading to speculation that political tensions between Cuba and the United States may have interfered with further exploration. Some believe that if the discovery were confirmed, it could rewrite human history in a way that challenges established narratives, making it a politically sensitive topic. But despite the lack of definitive answers, the idea of an ancient city submerged beneath the Caribbean continues to captivate the imagination. If further exploration ever takes place, it could provide evidence of a lost civilization hidden for thousands of years beneath the waves. The ocean has a way of hiding history, preserving secrets beneath its depths for millennia. The discovery of the so-called Cuban underwater city raised profound questions about what ancient civilizations may have been lost to time. But it was not the only enigma to challenge our understanding of the past. Some mysteries are buried beneath the sea, others beneath the sands, and some in the very languages left behind by those who once ruled the world. One of the strangest and most perplexing linguistic mysteries comes from a remote island in Brazilian Atlantis, Ratanaba, the lost civilization in the Amazon. History is filled with mysteries, lost civilizations, forgotten cities, and languages lost to time, puzzles we may never fully solve. While the tomb of Chichen Itza remains untouched beneath layers of earth and legend, other ancient wonders may have been swallowed by nature itself, entire civilizations hidden beneath the ocean, waiting to be rediscovered. One such place, if the stories are true, lies deep in the heart of the Amazon, a lost city some call the Brazilian Atlantis. Legends of a lost civilization in the Amazon have persisted for centuries, long before European explorers ever set foot in South America. Indigenous tribes spoke of vast stone cities hidden within the jungle, overgrown with vines and buried beneath layers of earth. But for centuries, these stories were dismissed as myths. The Amazon was thought to be too hostile, too wild to support any kind of advanced civilization. The idea of massive urban centers thriving in one of the most extreme environments on Earth seemed impossible. But recent discoveries suggest there may be truth to these ancient tales. The mystery of the so-called Brazilian Atlantis centers around the idea that deep within the Amazon rainforest, there may once have been a civilization as sophisticated as the great cultures of the ancient world, one that built monumental structures, left behind intricate road networks, and possibly even developed writing. Unlike traditional Atlantis myths, which tell of an advanced society swallowed by the sea, this lost city is believed to have been consumed by the rainforest itself, overtaken by nature to the point that no trace of it could be seen from above. One of the most compelling clues supporting this theory comes from satellite imagery. In the past few decades, as technology has improved, researchers have begun using LiDAR, light detection and ranging, to scan the Amazon's dense tree cover, revealing something astonishing beneath: geometric patterns, straight roads, and what appear to be the remnants of large settlements where the jungle once seemed untouched. These findings suggest that the Amazon may have once been home to a complex and highly organized civilization, one capable of large-scale urban planning. The connection to Atlantis comes from a long history of speculation and exploration. In the early 20th century, British explorer Percy Fawcett became obsessed with the idea of a lost city in the Amazon, which he called Z. He believed that ancient texts and local legends hinted at an advanced civilization hidden in the depths of the jungle. Fawcett set out in 1925 on an expedition to find this lost city, but he was never seen again. His disappearance only fueled speculation, and over the years, many others have searched for the city of Z, convinced that something extraordinary is waiting to be found. More recently, archaeologists have uncovered evidence that challenges the traditional view of the Amazon as an untouched wilderness. The discovery of large-scale geoglyphs, massive geometric shapes carved into the ground, suggests that people were altering the landscape in sophisticated ways thousands of years ago. These geoglyphs are similar to those found in other ancient cultures, like the Nazca lines in Peru, raising the possibility that the Amazon was once home to a civilization capable of large-scale construction projects. But if such a civilization existed, what happened to it? Some researchers believe that disease, brought by early European contact, may have wiped out much of the population before their cities were ever recorded. Others think that environmental factors such as deforestation or shifting climate conditions could have played a role in their decline. The jungle is relentless. It reclaims anything left unattended, covering entire structures in thick vegetation in a matter of decades. If the cities of this lost civilization were built from stone, they might still be hidden beneath the forest floor, their ruins buried under centuries of plant life. Despite the growing evidence, many mysteries remain. If this civilization had writing, what happened to its texts? If it had monumental architecture, why haven't we found temples or palaces like those of the Maya or the Inca? Could entire cities really be buried beneath the Amazon, waiting to be rediscovered? And if so, what might they reveal about the true history of pre-Columbian South America? One of the most tantalizing aspects of this mystery is that it remains unsolved, not because we lack knowledge, but because we simply haven't explored enough. The Amazon rainforest is one of the least mapped places on Earth, its dense canopy hiding what could be a treasure trove of ancient history. As technology advances and LiDAR continues to penetrate the jungle's depths, we may be on the verge of uncovering something incredible, evidence of a lost civilization that thrived in the Amazon long before recorded history. Lost civilizations buried beneath dense jungle or swallowed by the sea leave behind traces of their existence, sometimes in ruins, sometimes in artifacts, and sometimes in myths. The Brazilian Atlantis is one such legend, an ancient city hidden within the Amazon, waiting to be found. But not all lost wonders remain undiscovered. Some have been unearthed, revealing stories even stranger than fiction. And in the case of one of history's most famous discoveries, the legend that followed was just as captivating as the treasure itself. Ica stones, carvings that challenge history. Cryptic inscriptions come in many forms. Some take the shape of intricate carvings, images that shouldn't exist, depicting scenes that challenge everything we think we know about history. Deep in the deserts of Peru, a collection of such carvings has been sparking controversy for decades. These are the Ica stones, thousands of smooth engraved rocks that seem to tell a story no one can explain. Etched into their surfaces are images of extinct animals, advanced medical procedures, and most unbelievably, humans coexisting with dinosaurs. Are these stones evidence of a lost chapter in history, a sophisticated hoax, or something even stranger? The Ica stones first came to public attention in the 1960s when Peruvian physician Dr. Javier Cabrera Dara received one as a birthday gift. The stone, dark and smooth, was engraved with an intricate design, one that immediately piqued Cabrera's curiosity. It seemed to depict a prehistoric fish, an image that shouldn't have been known to ancient peoples. Fascinated, Cabrera began searching for more, and what he found was astonishing. Thousands of similar stones had been unearthed near the small town of Ica, scattered across the arid landscape and buried in nearby caves. Their carvings ranged from the bizarre to the impossible, humanoid figures riding dinosaurs, detailed representations of heart transplants and brain surgery, even what appeared to be star maps. The stones seemed to suggest knowledge far beyond what should have been possible for ancient civilizations. The sheer number of stones was staggering. Estimates suggest that tens of thousands exist, many now housed in private collections or small museums in Peru. But their origins remain a mystery. Who carved them? When were they made? And perhaps most importantly, why do they depict scenes that shouldn't exist? One of the most perplexing aspects of the Ica stones is their depiction of dinosaurs. The engravings show creatures with long necks, plated backs, and spiked tails, figures that bear a striking resemblance to known species, such as the Triceratops and Stegosaurus. Mainstream history tells us that dinosaurs went extinct around 65 million years ago, long before humans appeared. Yet the stones seem to suggest that whoever carved them had first-hand knowledge of these prehistoric creatures. Could this be evidence that dinosaurs and humans once coexisted? Some proponents of alternative history theories believe the stones offer proof of a lost civilization, one that existed far earlier than conventional timelines suggest. Even stranger are the images of what appear to be advanced medical procedures. Some stones depict detailed surgical operations, open heart surgery, organ transplants, even what seems to be brain surgery. The figures in these engravings hold tools resembling scalpels and forceps, working with a level of knowledge that shouldn't have existed in the ancient world. Cabrera himself was convinced that the stones were evidence of a technologically advanced society that predated known history. He suggested that the carvings told the story of an ancient race that had once flourished on Earth, possessing knowledge of medicine, astronomy, and even space travel. According to his theory, this civilization eventually perished, leaving behind only these enigmatic stones as their last message to the future. But despite their astonishing imagery, the Ica stones have been shrouded in controversy almost since the moment they were discovered. Skepticism surrounding their authenticity quickly followed. One of the most damning pieces of evidence against them came from a local farmer named Basilio Usua. In the 1970s, Usua admitted to carving some of the stones himself, using a knife and simple tools to create the engravings. He even demonstrated the process for journalists, showing how he could produce similar carvings in just a few hours. Following this revelation, many dismissed the stones as an elaborate hoax. If a single farmer could replicate the engravings with ease, the logic went, then the entire collection must be fake. The Peruvian government classified the stones as forgeries, and mainstream archaeologists largely abandoned them as a serious subject of study. However, the controversy didn't end there. While Usua admitted to faking some stones, he later retracted his confession, claiming he had only said it to avoid legal trouble. Peru has strict laws against selling genuine archaeological artifacts. Some researchers also pointed out that while modern engravings could be easily identified, many stones showed signs of extreme age, with weathering patterns suggesting they were far older than Usua's claimed forgeries. Even more puzzling was the sheer volume of stones, tens of thousands in circulation. Could all of them have been produced in recent decades? And if they were fakes, why would someone go to such lengths to create them? The debate over the Ica stones continues to this day. Those who believe in their authenticity argue that mainstream archaeology is too quick to dismiss anomalous evidence. They point to the sheer number of stones, the consistency of their imagery, and the possibility that at least some of them could be genuine. On the other side, skeptics argue that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence and that no verifiable proof exists to support the idea that the stones are ancient. Without a clear archaeological context, such as an undisturbed excavation site confirming their antiquity, there is little to suggest they are anything more than a modern creation. One final possibility is that the stones contain a mix of genuine artifacts and modern additions. Some researchers have suggested that a small number of authentic carvings could exist depicting known ancient cultural symbols, while the more outlandish images, dinosaurs, surgeries, star maps, may have been added later to attract attention and profit. But whether real, fake, or something in between, the Ica stones remain one of the most intriguing and contentious mysteries of the ancient world. If they are genuine, they force us to reconsider everything we know about human history, technology, and even the timeline of life on Earth. If they are hoaxes, they represent one of the most elaborate and persistent fabrications ever created. The Ica stones remain one of history's most hotly debated artifacts. Whether they hold the truth about a lost civilization or are simply an elaborate hoax, their mystery persists. And while we may never have concrete answers about their origins, they serve as a reminder that history is filled with puzzles, some carved into stone, others buried beneath the sands of time. And deep in the Valley of the Kings, a burial site famous for its pharaohs and ancient treasures, lies one such puzzle. Long U Caves, the underground enigma with no builders, a mystery just as baffling, one that isn't hidden in the mountains, but deep underground in Jiang province, lies a series of immense, perfectly carved stone chambers. No historical records mention their construction, no tools have been found, and their purpose remains completely unknown. These are the Longyu Caves, hidden beneath the rolling hills of Jiang province in China. The Longyu Caves are among the most perplexing archaeological discoveries ever made. Unlike the natural limestone caves scattered throughout China, these caverns are entirely man-made, vast underground chambers carved with near-perfect symmetry, intricate patterns, and engineering precision that defies logic. What makes them even more mysterious is that no historical records mention their construction. There are no blueprints, no tools, no writings, nothing. It's as though an entire civilization built them and then erased all evidence of how or why they existed. And to this day, no one knows who created them, how they did it, or what purpose they served. The discovery of the caves was entirely accidental. In 1992, a local farmer, curious about the deep pools of water scattered across his village, decided to drain one. As the water receded, what emerged stunned him. Massive smooth-walled chambers extending deep into the earth, unlike anything he had ever seen. Soon, other villagers followed suit, draining more pools, only to find more hidden chambers below. What they had uncovered was an underground complex spanning an estimated 30,000 square meters. Each cavern was meticulously carved from solid sandstone. To put it into perspective, the caves are so vast that if combined, they would cover the area of roughly 4 football fields. The ceilings soar up to 30 meters, 98 feet, high, supported by evenly spaced stone pillars. The walls are covered in a uniform pattern of chiseled markings, marks that seem too precise to have been made with rudimentary hand tools. What makes the Longyu Caves so baffling is the sheer scale of labor that must have gone into their construction. Archaeologists estimate that nearly 1 million cubic meters of rock would have had to be excavated to create the caverns. If this was done with the tools available in ancient China, it would have taken thousands of workers working day and night for years, possibly decades. Yet, as advanced as the caves appear, no tools or construction materials have ever been found. There are no remains of workers, no leftover chisel marks from different stages of construction, and no debris from the excavation process. Where did all the displaced rock go? How did they move it? And why do the caves appear so immaculate, as if they were abandoned immediately after completion? Adding to the mystery is the fact that the caves are not randomly distributed. Each chamber is positioned with careful alignment, as if part of a much larger interconnected system. Some researchers speculate that the caves may have been used for storage, military purposes, or even as secret meeting places for an unknown group. Others suggest they may have had a spiritual or ceremonial function, perhaps linked to an ancient belief system long forgotten. Some believe they were once underground palaces or residences of a ruling elite. But without any inscriptions, artifacts, or evidence of habitation, all of these remain theories with no definitive answers. One of the most peculiar aspects of the Longyu Caves is their structural integrity. Despite being thousands of years old, dating back at least to the Qin dynasty in the 3rd century BC, if not earlier, the walls show no signs of erosion or collapse. Unlike many ancient structures that deteriorate over time, the caves remain remarkably intact, as if they were built to last indefinitely. The precision with which they were carved suggests an understanding of engineering far beyond what should have been possible at the time. Some have compared the caves to modern-day underground bunkers, capable of withstanding natural disasters, seismic activity, and even potential invaders. But if they were meant for protection, who or what were they hiding from? Another aspect that fuels speculation is the striking uniformity of the chisel marks found throughout the caves. These markings are consistent across all chambers, covering walls, pillars, and ceilings in a symmetrical, almost decorative fashion. The precision of the carvings suggests an advanced construction technique, possibly even a lost technology. Some have theorized that these marks were not made with traditional hand tools, but by a more sophisticated method, perhaps a lost ancient machine or technique unknown to modern archaeology. Others have drawn comparisons to megalithic sites around the world, noting that civilizations separated by vast distances have often exhibited similar unexplained feats of engineering. Some theories venture into more unorthodox territory, suggesting that the Longyu Caves were built using sound frequencies or some form of ancient vibrational technology that softened the stone, allowing for easier excavation. While this may sound far-fetched, modern experiments have shown that sound waves can affect the structural integrity of materials. Could the ancient builders of Longyu have known something that we do not? Others speculate that the caves may have once been filled with water, intentionally serving as reservoirs or even reflecting pools for celestial observations. Some of the cave floors contain sunken channels, almost as if they were designed for the movement of water. Yet no irrigation systems have ever been found. Were the caves meant to be flooded? If so, What was their function when submerged? Despite various excavation attempts, archaeologists remain baffled. No bones, no pottery, no writings, nothing has been discovered to link the caves to a specific group or purpose. The complete absence of historical references is particularly strange, given China's extensive written records. If such a massive project was undertaken, why does no document, legend, or historical text mention it? In a country with a rich history of documentation, something as significant as the creation of these vast underground chambers should have left some trace. Yet it hasn't. As the mystery deepens, so does the curiosity of those who visit the site. Some believe the answer lies beneath the still unexplored sections of the caves, hidden behind yet to be excavated walls or deep within the surrounding hills. If more chambers exist, could they finally provide the missing clues to who built Longyu and why? Some archaeologists have suggested scanning the area with ground-penetrating radar in hopes of detecting additional structures that could shed light on the enigma. But for now, the caves remain a silent riddle, their creators lost to time. Longyu is not the only unexplained structure in China. Deep Voynich manuscript, the most mysterious book ever written, hidden away in words no one can understand, a book filled with an unknown language, a manuscript that defies translation, a code so complex that even the greatest minds in history have failed to crack it. This is the mystery of the Voynich manuscript. It was in 1912 when Wilfrid Voynich, an antiquarian bookseller, first came across the strange book in a Jesuit college near Rome. From the moment he laid eyes on it, he knew it was something extraordinary. The pages were filled with strange symbols written in an elegant, flowing script that seemed structured yet completely unrecognizable. Accompanying the text were bizarre illustrations, intricate botanical drawings of plants that don't exist, celestial charts that don't match any known star maps, and images of human figures engaged in inexplicable rituals. The manuscript was written on fine vellum, which was later carbon dated to between 1404 and 1438. But aside from that, everything about it remained a mystery. There was no author's name, no title, no indication of where it came from. It was as if the book had simply appeared out of nowhere, defying all attempts to place it within any known historical context. What makes the Voynich manuscript truly unique is that, despite being over 600 years old, no one has been able to read it. The writing follows a structure similar to real languages. There are recurring words, sentence formations, and even grammatical consistency, but it doesn't match any known script. It's not Latin, Greek, Arabic, or any lost dialect we've ever encountered before. Some of the best cryptographers in history have tried to decipher it. During World War II, military codebreakers who cracked Nazi encryption techniques attempted to translate the manuscript. They failed. Even modern AI and linguistic analysis programs have been unable to identify a pattern that would suggest a known language. Some believe the manuscript may be a form of shorthand or a secret code that only certain individuals knew how to read. Others think it could be a hoax, an elaborate forgery meant to deceive scholars centuries ago. But if it was a hoax, why go through such extreme lengths to make it look like a structured language? Why include hundreds of carefully drawn illustrations, some of which appeared to reference real scientific concepts? Theories about the Voynich manuscript range from the plausible to the bizarre. Some scholars believe it was an early medical text, possibly written by an alchemist or herbalist trying to document lost medicinal knowledge. The strange plants in the illustrations could represent rare herbs, and the images of human figures in odd poses might be medical diagrams. Another theory suggests it was written by a secretive religious group encoding their beliefs in an unbreakable cipher to protect them from persecution. Some have even suggested it could have been created by an unknown genius, someone who invented an entirely new language that no one else ever learned. A more speculative idea is that the manuscript contains knowledge far beyond what we should have had in the 15th century. Some believe it could be the work of an ancient civilization that predated our historical records, or even an artifact of extraterrestrial origin. The argument here is that the plants don't resemble any known Earth species, and the astronomical charts might depict a star system different from our own. Despite the endless efforts to decode it, the Voynich manuscript remains an enigma. Every few years, someone claims to have cracked the code, only for their theories to fall apart under scrutiny. Some researchers have suggested that the book was meant to be unreadable, possibly as an experiment in linguistics or an elaborate ruse designed to confuse and intrigue scholars. Yet, the mystery endures to this day. The manuscript sits in Yale University's Viking Rare Book and Manuscript Library, where it continues to puzzle historians, linguists, and cryptographers alike. Who wrote it? What does it say? And why does it exist? We may never know, but the Voynich manuscript remains one of the greatest literary puzzles in human history, an unsolved riddle written in a language lost to time. And while some texts may be indecipherable, others have simply been lost, hidden away, or deliberately destroyed, their secrets erased from history. One such example is the next mystery on our list, a legendary underground labyrinth in Egypt, described in ancient texts, but never found. The Voynich manuscript remains one of history's greatest enigmas, a book filled with knowledge that no one can understand. But while some texts are indecipherable, others are deliberately hidden, sealed away, untouched, and waiting to be discovered. Across history, there have been countless lost libraries, buried scrolls, and secret chambers that could hold the answers to ancient mysteries. Vanishing of the Clovis people, a lost American civilization. This mystery is not about a single artifact or a cryptic book. It's about an entire civilization that simply vanished, a culture that thrived for thousands of years before disappearing, leaving behind only fragments of its existence and a burning question. What happened to the Clovis people? The Clovis culture is one of the most perplexing chapters in North American prehistory. Dating back around 13,000 years, it is one of the oldest known civilizations on the continent. The Clovis people were skilled hunters, recognized for their distinct Clovis points, carefully crafted spearheads found across North America. These tools, made from flint and stone, were so advanced that they suggest a society with shared knowledge, trade networks, and a deep understanding of the land. For centuries, archaeologists believe the Clovis people were the first humans to set foot in the Americas, arriving via the Bering land bridge from Siberia. But then, they vanished almost overnight. Their presence disappeared from the archaeological record, leaving no clear explanation for why an entire civilization collapsed. The discovery of the Clovis culture traces back to the early 20th century when distinctive spear points were found in Clovis, New Mexico, giving the civilization its name. These tools were buried alongside the remains of Ice Age animals like mammoths and bison, suggesting that the Clovis were skilled big game hunters who thrived in the harsh conditions of the last Ice Age. As more Clovis sites were uncovered across the United States, Canada, and even parts of South America, it became clear that this was not a small, isolated group. The Clovis people were widespread, successful, and left behind signs of a thriving, mobile society. But then, something changed. Around 12,800 years ago, Clovis artifacts abruptly disappeared from the archaeological record. There were no clear signs of war, no evidence of mass famine, and no obvious reasons why they would have ceased to exist. It's as if the culture simply evaporated, leaving behind only scattered tools and bones. This sudden disappearance has baffled archaeologists for decades, sparking numerous theories about what could have happened. One of the leading theories is the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis, which suggests that a comet or asteroid struck North America around 12,800 years ago, triggering massive environmental changes. According to this theory, the impact set off raging wildfires that burned across the continent, throwing so much debris into the air that it caused a rapid return to Ice Age conditions. This sudden climate shift, known as the Younger Dryas cooling event, would have devastated the Clovis people's food sources, wiping out large prey animals and forcing a collapse of their way of life. Evidence of this cataclysmic event has been found in the form of a black mat layer, a thin, carbon-rich layer of sediment found at Clovis archaeological sites. This layer contains high levels of nanodiamonds, which some scientists believe are the result of an extraterrestrial impact. If true, the Clovis culture may have been one of the first human societies to fall victim to a global disaster. Another possibility is that the Clovis people didn't disappear at all. Instead, they adapted and merged with other emerging cultures. Some archaeologists suggest that as large Ice Age animals like mammoths and mastodons went extinct, the Clovis people were forced to change their way of life. Instead of relying on big game hunting, they may have shifted to smaller prey and new survival strategies. This adaptation could have led to the rise of new cultures, such as the Folsom people, who appear in the archaeological record shortly after the Clovis. If this is true, then the Clovis people didn't vanish, they evolved, leaving behind their old ways and becoming something new. But there is another, more unsettling theory, one that suggests the Clovis people were wiped out by an unknown catastrophe. Some researchers point to evidence of ancient megafauna extinctions that occurred around the same time the Clovis disappeared. Mammoths, saber-toothed cats, and giant ground sloths all vanished within a short window of time, leading some to speculate that whatever caused their extinction may have also ended the Clovis culture. Whether it was disease, competition with other human groups, or an environmental disaster, something removed them from history with startling speed. Yet, there are even stranger clues that complicate the story. A growing body of evidence suggests that humans may have been in the Americas long before the Clovis people. Sites like Monte Verde in Chile and the Galt site in Texas contain artifacts that predate the Clovis by thousands of years, challenging the long-held belief that they were the first Americans. If other groups were already present, then who were the Clovis people really? Were they an isolated culture, or were they part of a larger migration of people whose history has been lost? Some suggest that they may have been a remnant of an even older civilization, one that existed before the last ice age and was wiped from history by a disaster we can only guess at. Despite the many theories, the fate of the Clovis people remains one of archaeology's greatest unanswered questions. Did they succumb to climate change? Were they victims of a cosmic disaster? Or did they simply fade into other cultures, leaving behind only fragments of their existence? The truth remains buried, locked in the soil of ancient America. The Clovis people vanished, leaving behind tools, bones, and unanswered questions about their fate. Were they wiped out by a sudden cataclysm, or did they slowly fade into obscurity, their descendants blending into later civilizations? The past is full of stories like this, cultures that rose, flourished, and disappeared, leaving behind little more than clues for us to decipher. But sometimes, what they leave behind isn't just bones. Lost civilization of Doggerland, Europe's Atlantis. Across the world, entire cities have vanished beneath the waves, leaving behind only scattered ruins and whispered stories. Off the coast of Europe, beneath the waves of the North Sea, lies evidence of an even greater loss, a land that once connected Britain to mainland Europe, teeming with life and home to thousands of people until one day it was gone. This is the story of Doggerland, the prehistoric civilization lost to time and tide, a place where humans once thrived before nature erased it completely. Tens of thousands of years ago, the world was a very different place. Much of the Earth's water was locked in vast ice sheets, lowering sea levels and exposing massive landmasses that are now hidden beneath the oceans. One of these lost lands was Doggerland, a vast stretch of land that once connected what is now Britain, the Netherlands, Denmark, and Germany. It wasn't just a barren plain. It was a thriving ecosystem, a landscape of rolling hills, wide rivers, and dense forests. For thousands of years, it was home to early humans, hunter-gatherers who followed migrating herds, fished its waters, and built their lives in a world now lost beneath the sea. The first hints of Doggerland's existence didn't come from history books or ancient texts, but from fishermen. For centuries, trawlers working the North Sea have pulled up strange artifacts, tools, bones, and even ancient skulls, all dredged up from the seabed. Some of these remains belong to animals like woolly mammoths and saber-toothed cats, while others clearly came from humans, evidence that people had once walked across this submerged world. But it wasn't until the 20th century that scientists began to understand what they were dealing with. Advances in sonar mapping and underwater archaeology revealed something astonishing: an entire prehistoric landscape frozen in time beneath the waves. Riverbeds, hills, and even the faint outlines of what might have once been settlements were mapped out under the North Sea. What had once been a lush and habitable land was now a vast, empty seabed. So, what happened? Doggerland didn't disappear overnight, but rather through a slow and relentless process. As the Ice Age ended and temperatures rose, glaciers melted, causing sea levels to rise. Slowly, year by year, the water crept in, forcing its inhabitants to retreat. But then, around 8,000 years ago, something catastrophic happened, an event that sealed Doggerland's fate. It's known as the Storegga Slide, one of the largest underwater landslides ever recorded. Somewhere off the coast of Norway, a massive chunk of seabed collapsed, triggering a mega tsunami. Walls of water, some reaching over 30 feet high, crashed into Doggerland's coastline, swallowing villages, drowning forests, and sweeping entire communities away. What had been a sprawling land bridge between Britain and Europe was suddenly cut off, fragmented into islands before vanishing completely beneath the waves. For the people living there, the Storegga tsunami must have been apocalyptic. Some may have survived, fleeing to higher ground in Britain or continental Europe. Others were likely caught in the waves, their homes and lives erased in a matter of hours. And just like that, Doggerland was gone. But could some remnants still be hiding beneath the sea? The North Sea is an unforgiving place for archaeologists. Its waters are murky, and its seabed is constantly shifting. But over the years, new discoveries have continued to emerge: human tools, fragments of wooden structures, and even ancient footprints preserved in mud, offering a glimpse into the lives of Doggerland's last inhabitants. In 2018, researchers using advanced sonar detected what appeared to be evidence of ancient human settlements buried under layers of sediment. Some even believe that entire villages, perhaps even burial sites, could still be out there, perfectly preserved beneath the seabed. But perhaps the biggest question of all is whether Doggerland could ever be fully explored. Unlike other lost civilizations, this one is hidden under a shallow but treacherous sea where storms and currents make underwater exploration incredibly difficult. Even with modern technology, much of it remains out of reach, a ghostly landscape buried beneath the North Sea. Still, the legend of Doggerland continues to grow. Some researchers believe it was the inspiration for later myths. The idea of a sunken homeland, a once great civilization lost beneath the waves. Could it be that stories of a lost land, passed down through generations, eventually morphed into the Atlantis legend? For now, Doggerland remains a land of speculation, a place we know existed but can never truly visit. The discovery of Doggerland's lost civilization proves just how much of our history is buried beneath the waves, whole worlds we never knew existed, erased by time and nature. But sometimes, history isn't lost forever. Rongo Rongo script, the forgotten language of Easter Island. In the Pacific Ocean lies Easter Island, known for its iconic Moa statues. This isolated land holds another enigma that has baffled historians, linguists, and archaeologists for centuries. Scattered across the island are wooden tablets etched with symbols unlike any other written language. These inscriptions, known as the Rongo Rongo script, have never been deciphered, leaving scholars with more questions than answers. Easter Island, or Rapa Nui as the locals call it, is one of the most isolated inhabited places on Earth, lying over 2,000 miles from the nearest landmass. The island was once home to a thriving civilization that built the massive stone heads that have become its global symbol. But while much attention has been given to the Moai, the Rongo Rongo script remains a mystery just as profound, one that could potentially unlock the lost history of the island's early inhabitants. The first recorded mention of Rongo Rongo comes from the 19th century, when Catholic missionaries arrived on the island and noticed the strange markings carved into pieces of wood. The islanders, however, were unable to read the symbols, claiming that knowledge of the script had been lost generations ago. Some elders spoke of a time when only a select group of wise men, known as the Tangata Rongo Rongo, were able to read and recite the sacred texts. But with the collapse of Rapa Nui society due to famine, warfare, and the arrival of European explorers, the knowledge of how to read Rongo Rongo disappeared forever. What makes Rongo Rongo so baffling is that if it is indeed a form of writing, it would be one of the very few independent writing systems in human history. Most known scripts, from Egyptian hieroglyphs to the Latin alphabet, evolved from earlier forms of writing. However, Easter Island was so isolated that if Rongo Rongo is a true script, it would mean that the Rapa Nui people developed writing completely on their own, separate from any outside influence, a feat accomplished by only a handful of civilizations. Linguists have spent decades trying to decipher the inscriptions, but progress has been slow. The symbols are arranged in a unique path pattern called reverse boustrophedon, meaning the direction of writing alternates with each line. One line is written left to right, then the next is carved upside down and read from right to left. This unusual style makes deciphering the script even more difficult, as it suggests a sophisticated writing system with strict formatting rules. Theories about the meaning of the script vary widely. Some researchers believe Rongo Rongo could be a form of proto-writing, with symbols that represent concepts rather than a full written language. Others suggest that it records genealogies, religious chants, or historical events from the island's past. There are even those who speculate that the script encodes lost knowledge about the civilization's downfall, hinting at a warning for future generations. Some symbols on the tablets resemble birds, fish, and human-like figures, leading some scholars to propose that Rongo Rongo could be a form of pictographic storytelling, similar to ancient Mesoamerican glyphs. However, no direct link has been found between the script and any other known writing system, leaving its origins shrouded in mystery. Adding to the intrigue is the scarcity of the tablets. Fewer than 30 known examples of Rongo Rongo inscriptions exist today, many of which are incomplete or damaged. Some were lost over the centuries, while others were destroyed when Catholic missionaries banned the practice of writing and ordered the tablets burned, considering them works of pagan superstition. Despite numerous attempts, no one has been able to fully crack the code of Rongo Rongo. Some believe that without a Rosetta Stone equivalent, a bilingual inscription in a known language, the script may never be deciphered. Others argue that the knowledge may not be entirely lost, and that oral traditions or surviving fragments could still hold the key to unlocking its meaning. There are even more speculative theories surrounding Rongo Rongo. Some researchers suggest that the script might be far older than previously thought, potentially dating back thousands of years and representing knowledge passed down from an earlier lost civilization. Others have linked it to global prehistory, theorizing that Rapa Nui inhabitants may have had connections with other ancient cultures, sharing information and scripts across vast distances of ocean. While these theories remain unproven, the existence of Rongo Rongo continues to challenge our understanding of ancient civilizations and their capabilities. If it truly represents an independent writing system, it would be one of the greatest linguistic discoveries in history, a testament to the ingenuity of the Rapa Nui people and a glimpse into a lost world we may never fully understand. For now, the tablets remain silent, their meanings locked away in symbols that no one alive can read. But history is filled with unsolved mysteries, and as technology advances, perhaps one day the script of Rongo Rongo will finally reveal its secrets. Until then, it remains an eerie reminder of a vanished past, a message from a civilization long gone, waiting for someone to finally listen. The past is littered with lost languages, scripts that remain undeciphered, their meanings locked away by time. The Rongo Rongo script of Easter Island is one of the greatest linguistic mysteries, an ancient writing system that defies translation and leaves more questions than answers. Who wrote it? What secrets does it hold? Could it be the key to understanding an entire lost civilization? While many ancient scripts remain unreadable, others hint at a past that may be even stranger than we imagine. Because sometimes history doesn't just leave behind cryptic symbols, it leaves behind evidence of people that shouldn't have existed in the first place. Baalbek megaliths, the impossible stone blocks. Baalbek is one of those places that seems to defy explanation. Nestled in modern Lebanon, this ancient site is famous for its towering Roman temples built to honor Jupiter, Venus, and Bacchus. But as impressive as those ruins are, they sit atop something far older and far stranger. The Baalbek megaliths. These stones are impossibly massive. The largest among them, known as the Trilithon, consists of 3 limestone blocks, each weighing between 800 and 1,000 tons. They are placed perfectly, stacked 12 meters above the ground, with no visible mortar, as if they were gently lowered into place. But the real mystery lies in the stone of the pregnant woman, an even larger block estimated to weigh 1,200 tons. It still lies abandoned in the quarry, seemingly carved and ready to be moved, except no one knows how that could have been possible. Theories about how these stones were transported and placed range from conventional to controversial. The mainstream belief is that the Romans were responsible. After all, they were master builders, constructing aqueducts, temples, and roads that have stood for thousands of years. Some historians suggest they had the means to move the megaliths using cranes, pulleys, and sheer manpower. But there's a problem with this explanation. No known Roman engineering feats come close to moving stones of this size. Even their most advanced construction projects never attempted to lift anything close to 1,000 tons. It's as if they built their temples on top of something far older. That's why some researchers believe Baalbek predates the Romans entirely. Some accounts suggest the site was originally built by the Phoenicians, an ancient maritime civilization that once ruled the Mediterranean. Others push the timeline even further back, claiming that the site is pre-Phoenician, meaning it could be thousands of years older than recorded history suggests. If true, that would mean a lost civilization, not Rome, was responsible for moving these stones. But if that's the case, who were they? And more importantly, how did they do it? There are those who believe Baalbek was built using a lost form of ancient technology. Perhaps the builders had an advanced understanding of counterweights, pressure manipulation, or even sound frequencies that could make heavy objects easier to move. Some speculate that the answer lies in forgotten techniques, methods of construction that have been erased by time, lost before they could ever be written down. If we knew how they did it, what else might we discover about the ancient world? And then there's the most controversial theory of all, that Baalbek stones were moved with the help of something beyond human ability. Ancient astronaut theorists have pointed to the sheer size and impossible precision of the megaliths, suggesting that Baalbek may have once been a landing site for extraterrestrial visitors. Some believe that its position, its alignment, and its construction indicate that it was more than just a temple. It was something older, something built for a purpose we don't yet understand. There's no solid evidence for this, but the idea has persisted for decades. What we do know is this: no one has ever successfully explained how these stones were moved. They remain one of the greatest engineering puzzles of the ancient world. If a civilization thousands of years ago had the capability to transport and position them, what else were they capable of? and what other secrets could still be hidden beneath the ruins of Baalbek. But Baalbek isn't the only mystery that forces us to rethink what we know about history. The past is full of impossible artifacts, things that shouldn't exist, but do. And next, we move to one of the most debated pieces of evidence ever discovered, a 16th century map that appears to show Antarctica without ice. Before we dive into the next mystery, just a quick note. While the visuals in this video will provide extra context, they aren't necessary to enjoy the stories. Feel free to let this play in the background while you work, relax, or even fall asleep to these eerie unsolved mysteries. And if you'd like to support me in making these videos and get access to exclusive stories and all of our videos ad-free, consider becoming a Patreon member. The link is in the comments below. Now, back to the mystery. Unfinished obelisk of Aswan. The abandoned monument, artifacts, or unexplored lands. Some mysteries are right in front of us, carved into the very stones of the past. One of the most striking of these enigmas lies in the heart of Egypt, the unfinished obelisk of Aswan, a monument that, had it been completed, would have been the largest of its kind. Yet, for some reason, the ancient Egyptians abandoned it, leaving it frozen in time, still half carved from the bedrock. Aswan, Egypt, is home to some of the most remarkable feats of ancient engineering. It was here, in vast quarries along the Nile, that the Egyptians cut colossal stone blocks used to build their temples and obelisks. These quarries supplied the raw material for some of the most iconic structures in the world, including the great temples of Karnak and Luxor. But among these, one stands out, not because it was completed, but because it never was. The unfinished obelisk lies embedded in the rock, partially carved and cracked, an abandoned giant measuring over 137 feet long and weighing an estimated 1,200 tons. If it had been finished and erected, it would have been the tallest and heaviest obelisk in Egypt, larger than any that now stand in places like Karnak or even in Rome, where many Egyptian obelisks were later transported. Yet, for reasons unknown, it was left unfinished, forgotten for thousands of years. Historians estimate that the obelisk was being carved during the reign of Queen Hatshepsut, one of Egypt's most powerful and mysterious pharaohs, who ruled in the 15th century BC. Known for her ambitious building projects, Hatshepsut commissioned some of the most impressive temples and monuments of the time, including the famous obelisks that still stand in Karnak. But unlike those, this one never left the quarry. The most widely accepted theory for why the obelisk was left unfinished is that a massive crack appeared in the stone as workers were carving it from the bedrock. This flaw would have made it impossible to transport or erect, rendering the entire project useless. The Egyptians, known for their precision and skill in stone cutting, may have decided that rather than wasting time trying to salvage it, they would abandon it and start over elsewhere. But some scholars believe the story isn't that simple. The Egyptians were masters of stonework, and their techniques for quarrying and moving massive blocks of stone were highly advanced for their time. Some believe that if the crack were the only issue, they may have found a way to repurpose parts of the obelisk instead of leaving it entirely behind. This raises the question, was there another reason it was abandoned? One alternative theory is that the project was cursed or seen as an omen of bad luck. Ancient Egyptians were deeply spiritual and believed that divine signs could dictate the fate of construction projects. If a major crack appeared, it could have been interpreted as a warning from the gods, an indication that the obelisk should never be completed. In a civilization where religious beliefs were intertwined with daily life and leadership, it's possible that such a sign would have been taken seriously. Others suggest that the obelisk was simply too ambitious. Even though the Egyptians had successfully transported massive obelisks before, this one was significantly larger than anything attempted before. Moving an object of this size and weight would have required an unprecedented level of planning and manpower. Some experts speculate that once the full scale of the challenge became apparent, the project was quietly abandoned in favor of more practical endeavors. What makes the unfinished obelisk even more fascinating is what it reveals about ancient Egyptian quarrying techniques. The site shows clear evidence of how these massive monuments were carved using a method that is still not fully understood. The Egyptians didn't use metal chisels to cut through the hard granite. Instead, they used dorit, a type of extremely hard stone, to pound away at the rock. Workers would have painstakingly chipped away at the stone with dorit balls, creating deep trenches around the obelisk to free it from the bedrock. There are also curious tool marks and trenches visible along the length of the obelisk, evidence of an ancient worksite frozen in time. Some researchers believe that studying these markings can help us better understand how the Egyptians managed to construct and move their massive stone structures, techniques that are still debated by historians and engineers today. But there are even stranger aspects to the obelisk that some believe suggest advanced or lost technology. The way the stone was shaped is so precise that some have suggested the possibility of tools or methods that we don't fully understand. Did the Egyptians have knowledge of construction techniques that have since been lost to history? Some alternative theorists propose that advanced methods, possibly involving high-powered tools or techniques we have yet to rediscover, may have played a role in quarrying and shaping these immense structures. Despite mainstream explanations, the unfinished obelisk has attracted its share of alternative theories. Some researchers question whether the Egyptians alone could have moved stones of such enormous size using only wooden sledges, ropes, and manpower. This has led to speculation that they may have had assistance from an unknown source, whether that means an undiscovered ancient technology, an advanced civilization that predated them, or even theories that lean into more controversial territory, such as extraterrestrial intervention. While such ideas are often dismissed by mainstream scholars, it's undeniable that the techniques used to build many of Egypt's great monuments remain a mystery even today. Engineers debate how some of these structures were created, how blocks weighing hundreds of tons were lifted into place with primitive tools, and why so many unfinished or abandoned projects like the unfinished obelisk exist. Another idea suggests that the unfinished obelisk wasn't abandoned at all, but rather left intentionally. Could it have been a training ground for quarry workers? Some archaeologists believe that workers practiced on the obelisk before moving on to smaller, more manageable projects. This would explain why the site is covered in tool marks and trenches, evidence of generations of workers honing their skills. Others speculate that the obelisk's abandonment might have been due to a change in political power. If Queen Hatshepsut was overthrown, or if priorities shifted to other construction projects, the workforce may have simply been redirected elsewhere, leaving the massive monument frozen in time. Today, the unfinished obelisk of Aswan stands as a silent reminder of both the ambition and the limits of ancient civilizations. It is a site where time seems to have stopped, where visitors can still see the marks left by hands that worked on it thousands of years ago. Whether it was abandoned due to structural failure, religious superstition, or simple practicality, the obelisk offers us a rare glimpse into an ancient world, a world that was both incredibly advanced and, at the same time, still bound by the laws of nature. It remains one of the largest mysteries of ancient engineering, a testament to what could have been, had history played out just a little differently. And yet, it is only one of many such anomalies across the world, places and objects that defy explanation, structures that hint at a deeper, perhaps forgotten past. The unfinished obelisk of Aswan remains a stark reminder of ancient engineering feats left incomplete. But what happens when an artifact is?